Amaka. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk, the ÁfroStyle Podcast. And of course, with me is my co-host, Camelia. Hello. So, thank you first of all for all the support you've been giving us. It's been fantastic. The notifications we've been getting and kudos and encouragement. Really appreciate it. So today's another interesting topic we have to discuss, and we're going to call it's triggering, because there's certain things that we've learned along the way growing up that we realize is pretty triggering. And I will ask you, what triggers you?
Most recently, the word crazy, which kind of snuck up on me and kind of triggers me. I think the initial trigger, because I didn't mind the word so much, but was when my niece was like, "Oh, there's my crazy Aunt Camelia." And I was like, okay, in my family, my role is to be the outside of the box person, like to think a little bit differently. And so I chose a very unconventional lifestyle. But the word crazy just kind of made me feel like it was this blanket term for somebody who just goes off the rails, has no logic or reason or rhyme. And so that kind of, I don't know, that word ended up growing in my mind, because there's everything from like really crazy, like need help kind of crazy, which is also kind of diminishing to the actual real word. And everything in between. So I don't crazy for me. What's yours?
You're gonna say, yeah, I'm not going whatever. I don't really have something that triggers me, but I would say, but tones trigger me. I think it's how it's said to me that will trigger me. That'll have me thinking.
Oh,
So if someone says, "I'm not gonna you stupid," I'll laugh it off, because maybe they're just joking.
interesting.
But if they say it in a tone, I will pay attention to the tone. And if it triggers, if I feel like, okay, the person has stepped out of their comfort zone to say something disrespectful, then that would trigger me.
Ooh, I can totally agree with that, because like knowing you, like you are unbothered, like majority of the time unbothered. Even if someone's being rude, I'm like, hey, I think that person's being rude to you. She's like, yeah, like you really don't take things hard. You got thick skin, but so there's no like particular word trigger. It's a tone.
Of course, there's so many words, words that we'll talk about later, but yeah. So most times I hear the tone, because I try to like, and of course, what the context of the situation is, I pay attention to that. So if you say turn left and I turn right by mistake, and you say, why are you acting stupid? Like I said, turn left, then I'll be like, game over. Like that's crossing the line.
Yeah.
Well, if you say, oh, you're being silly, I told you turn left and you turn right, then I would just joke it, like laugh sort of like, yeah, whatever, that kind of thing. So I tend to pay attention to the tone.
That seems like a really like a better barometer, because like we can go all day long talking about words alone as triggers, but the intention behind, because somebody can say something and not need to trigger you.
Yeah.
They just use the wrong word.
Yes. It could be that, because I'll let you all know that word crazy, I learned. I was like, don't you know? And the funny thing is that I said it because I was joking, and I was trying to say, she's crazy. And she's like, I said it once, she didn't say anything. And then when I said it again, and I was joking around, obviously. She said, yeah, I don't like when you call me crazy. I was just like, oop.
But no, I think that was just a really great way to handle the situation.
Yeah.
I know you weren't trying to offend me.
Yeah.
But I just didn't like the label. You know?
So I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. But
yeah. It's so important to let people know. And at the same time, like, I don't feel it's fair to paralyze something. Like, I had a roommate in college, and she literally had a list of words I couldn't say. I couldn't say skinny. I couldn't say poor. I couldn't say all these different words. And at a certain point, I was like, I feel like I can't say anything. And for me, when something triggers me, it surprises me, because I'm not an I'm a sensitive person, but I feel like I'm not like someone you need to like walk on eggshells around. But sometimes triggers, like, they catch me by surprise. Right? So like, I used to be a waitress, and there was this woman who kept trying to feed her dog under the table or whatever. And I was like, hey, you can't do that. You can't. And like, yeah, this Russian lady, like, she keeps trying to feed her dog. And it's super annoying, super disrespectful, right? Then someone came up to her and she was like, oh yeah, that China girl keeps trying to tell me what I can and cannot do. Right? And I didn't know that was going to be offensive. Like, that wasn't on a list anywhere for me. Because it was like, yeah, she said she called you China girl. I was like, oh, that feels icky.
But I think she probably said that on too.
Oh, that's just, the tone was definitely there.
Yeah.
And then I thought, wait a minute, I don't even know she's Russian. And I forgot I'm Russian.
Oh, okay.
My tone, I wasn't saying, hey, you Russian lady.
Yeah.
She just had like this Eastern European thing to her voice. So I didn't have the tone. She did have the tone. It triggered me, but it triggered me like, have you ever heard of a whiff of racism?
Yeah.
It's like, you're just like, oh, that's this. Yes. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
I feel like triggers are like that because you have the classic triggers, which are like the no words that people shouldn't be saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had that whiff of, oh my gosh, I think I'm offended.
Yeah.
And I didn't know China Girl was on the list, but apparently China Girl and Crazy are on my list. But it's like Marty McFly in Back to the Future. It's like his is chicken. Yeah. Nobody calls me chicken, right? But like if you call me chicken, I'd be like, bok. But if I was like, Amaka, you're such a chicken. You'd be
Yeah, I'll be pissed because I'll be like, okay, where did that come from? You know, that kind of thing. So that is why, I mean, I would say that I'm thick-skinned. I am sensitive as well, but I try to look at it from the bright side at first. But of course, I'm paying attention to the tone. So, and of course, I look at the context of
that's so on brand though. Like your default is to give someone a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, right. Let me give the person benefit. And like, if you try it again, then I'll start to think, pick up the idea that, the idea that, okay, there's something with that person.
Yeah.
Then I start to kind of figure out how I connect with the person, either to like dismiss the person altogether or go to them and tell them, hey, you need to change up the way you're talking. Just like when, I went to, someone and I said, okay, you need to go check that.
Yeah. The tone,
but
tone buffer in between. You go direct. It's like,
it's gonna be. Then I'll cross the line and I'll feel bad from crossing the line. Or I feel like, okay, I probably shouldn't have said that. So going to that part to say, you need to go check that person because I didn't say anything the first time when she sent me the first message. But then she sent me the second message. I was like, what the
tone is very deliberate.
The tone is different. But I picked up on the tone right off the bat. But I didn't say anything the first time.
Yeah.
And I figured maybe something caused her to connect to me that way. But when I saw the second time, I'm just like, okay, you're now just, your tone is just because you want to.
You know what's tricky too is that it's hard to read tone through words, like when you're being texted or emailed and stuff, unless somebody's like in all caps, and then hard to really tell, oh, are they mad at me or whatnot. But then you also have this like new age of keyboard warriors that think that they can pause the hell off at any time because they're behind their screen and but you put it in front of people and they can't stand it. But that's hard to decipher what tone is when it's just words because an actual innocent text can come off really poorly or vice versa.
But one way you can tell by tone is when the person puts 10 question marks
and doubles down
and you're just like,
that's pure glory.
That's pure glory. Like, well, you asked why and then you're putting 10 question marks behind it. Then I know that there is something going on. Of course, if there was like a fun banter back and forth and I see why you question, then I know it's a fun banter. But if I don't communicate with you in that way, and then of course the context and I get why in 10 questions, then I know that there's something going on, So that is So for me, it's just more so I'm going to check out the tone.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I may think about it. I'm going to bring it to you and say, what do you think? And you say, give me some ideas. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm kind of reading it. I'm just going to leave that alone for a second and see what happens the next time.
Yeah. I think being sensitive to other people, like, because it's impossible to know where triggers lie.
Mm-hmm.
But it does, at the end of the day, I guess, come down to attention. Like, if you are intending to hurt someone, if you're intending to be an asshole, you will succeed and you will get what's coming to you. Yeah, if you have the tone about it, but to accidentally say the wrong word, it's almost like really hard because like, how are you supposed to dance around? You never know where people's triggers might lie.
It's true. But I think another reason why I pay attention to tone is the Nigerian accent is really strong.
Okay. Let's talk about that because I've been seeing all over Instagram because I have very limited exposure, but like there's some like influencers or people like talking about how Nigerian moms stuff say, and it's like so poetic. It's like it blows my mind away. But I'm also like, there's like no bullshit. Like there's no like safety. They're just going for the jugular.
Exactly. There was that tones that you get from speaking for myself, and I'll kind of generalize when it comes to Nigerians. I'm not going to speak for other Africans, but when you hear that tone, you have to kind of decipher, are they being serious or are they joking? Because if you say, mom, where is the car key, for example, the tone you may get back is, why are you asking me? Do I look like someone? Am I your key keeper? And you're just like, oh, I just asked. But it may not be that she's angry at you. She's just telling you, I don't have it. Well, look for she could have gone with, I don't have it, but she just exactly. So they kind of like exaggerate their communication with you, and you just have to kind of decipher what she's saying.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
So, but it also makes you more fine-tuned.
Yes.
To knowing the difference, like kidding, not kidding. Like one thing I hate is when people are like super passive aggressive and they're like, they say something as if they're being nice, but they're really being a jerk on purpose. Like, oh yeah, they're slicing sideways. Right? I hate that when people disguise their tone and they are trying to cut you, But I also love that example because I dated this guy and his family was from Chicago, and I went to dinner with his family, and they were, not that all people from Chicago are like this, so sorry for the but they were like yelling at each other and like fighting over dinner, and I was like, are they mad? And it was like, no. That's how we communicate. Yeah, nothing was like a really big, like, attack, but it was like a constant state of yelling, which was strange to me. Like culturally, there's just like differences in like expression.
How is it that your father, you're Filipino Indonesian? How is it
when my dad's mad?
Yeah, not necessarily mad, but when they're trying to like their tonation, like how are you able to decipher like, okay, my dad is angry?
That is interesting because biggest punishment you could get is like, okay, we don't care then. We don't care. So silence was actually the most effective thing. If my dad didn't talk to you, then you're like, oh,
really?
Yes. There was the anticipation of dad coming home, and then when dad did come home, if he didn't even look at you, you were fucked. Yeah. And you have to get a little back because my dad is like one of those guys that does it. He does not hate anyone. He has no hate in his system. So if you get him to not even want to look at you, well, you messed up. Yeah, but it's really effective. I really learned the tool. It looks like minimal energy, maximum,
And then how about your mom? Like, it's
my mom, if she was mad, gosh, I feel like she was more vocal, but the general strategy is like, okay, you don't want to do this? What if we didn't care about you? What if we, we only doing this because we care about you? So go ahead, next. We don't care. Go do whatever you want.
Yeah.
See what happens.
It's opposite with most Nigerian families. Like you only hear them even when you don't want. It's like if you don't want to hear it, they'll make you hear them. Unless it's probably just their personality where they don't want to talk. For most Nigerian, even if they're calm, you will still hear them.
It might be a language barrier because my parents are both, they immigrated to the United States. So English is their second language. So my dad can speak English, but not with the same fluency. Yeah, my mom is more fluent than he is. So I wonder if I could speak Tagalog, my mom would probably pop off at me. Would pop off more. She still can in English, but
Like, she doesn't pop
It
off.
could have been worse.
She doesn't pop off in your language when she's angry, because they will pop off in your.
I've heard a lot of Tagalog swear words, though. For sure. For sure. That is about all the Tagalog that I know, unfortunately. But
It's just fascinating, because that's pretty much, I think, how I paid attention to the tone, because even sometimes if some uncles or aunties will say something and you know they're joking, but the tone immediately just like, you would have said that better.
Mm-hmm.
But then I just realized it's just their tone, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna play like not pay too much attention to it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's when it comes to triggers, that's what I pay attention to. Kind of like action, so to speak.
Yeah.
In terms of their tone.
So what do you think of the phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me? What do you think about that?
I kind of think that's a little bit of, excuse my language, bullshit.
Okay.
Because I think that, yes, maybe to an extent, things may not affect you per se, or you may try to like brush it off.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when you pay attention to the tone, what is said, the context, and then it's brought to your attention, but either directly or indirectly. Yeah. For me, I start to kind of maybe overthink it, but I'm kind of replaying the entire scene in my head and the words or whatever is being said, and it would get to the point where it's like, you know what? No, that did hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so that then kind of plays a role in terms of how I deal with the person going forward.
Yeah.
So as much as that term, I think that term is said to kind of like encourage the person, like, brush it off, no worries.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think
But sure,
we're human. It does hurt. Yeah, so it does hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna pretend what you said and the tone you said it does not affect or does not bother me.
I feel like, you know, that is exactly the intention of that phrase. But at the same time, though, like, to accept that everybody's going to make mistakes, everybody's going to say the wrong thing at some point, and just to know how to deal with that well, to like come at it with humility, because it really just depends on who you're saying it to.
Mm-hmm.
Like a word can have so much deeper repercussions for somebody, like culturally. And I know mine is crazy, but they can go deeper than that. And I'm also like not so stickler as to like not forgive somebody that says it wrong. I'm also somebody who is, if you tell me that you have a wound, I will accidentally dig my finger directly into it. So if you tell me, that's me. Yeah, no, it's an accident. It's an accident. If you're like, oh, please don't touch my arm today. I have a wound. I'll be like, oh my gosh, Amaka. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Oh my god. I know. I'm so clumsy like that. So it's important to like let people know what hurts word wise, and it's also important to understand that we're human and be able to apologize with humility and fuck up multiple times if you're like me, but also kind of to understand, you know, understand why this might hurt. Like, words keep coming that I'm trying to avoid, you know, like when it comes to cursing, that's an easy one. Oh, don't do that. It's going to make you, you know, seem like a low class person. But like words like crazy, you could never see that coming. Like it's just a constant process, right?
It's a learning process.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much your lesson that you take from today's.
That I cannot help it. I am super clumsy. As
so pretty much it's not intentional.
So
I think maybe coming from a place that is not intentional, but it's just, you know, you're human, you would make a mistake, give the person grace.
Grace.
I love also be willing to explain. Just like how I asked you finally, why does that word crazy trigger, and you explained it to me. And then I was just like, because at first I was like, huh? But then, I mean, I had to respect that she doesn't like that word. But being able to explain it and say, this is why, be it a personal issue, whether it's trauma, whatever, being able to understand why it triggers you. And me, as someone who's a friend and who's coming from a place of love, saying, you know what, I understand. You know, then it really then continues to build a stronger foundation between the people. But if you say, fuck that, I'm going to say it anyway. Barely ever. Then you're just into it. So this was a great conversation. And I didn't even think it was going to be that deep.
We just scratched the surface.
Yeah,
We need to go way deeper, but we kept it a little,
just a little like a sprinkle. Well, we just tend to go deeper gradually. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Be sure to subscribe, follow us, leave a comment, let us know what you think, what triggers you. We'll definitely love to know. Send us an email at info@AfroStyleMac.com. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. And from my bestie, Camelia, what really triggers me in a good way is when you subscribe and like. Subscribe and like. Yes! Bye-bye. Bye-bye.